Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story where Karen doesn't read her contracts before signing them, realizes she'll be homeless for a week, tries to intimidate everyone, including an 80-year-old man, and fails. Karen tries to bully old man out of his house after not reading her contract. For context here, I work in title and abstracting. Basically, my company provides insurance to buyers of property so that anything wrong with the property, such as liens, unpaid mortgages, or other title issues like death without probate, etc. I was in a business networking group with Karen, and as such, when she went to buy a new house, she went with us because I was her friend at the time. So Karen and the old man she's buying from, let's call him Bob, signed a purchase agreement stating that their closing would occur on the 28th of August. The purchase agreement for the house she was selling was closing on August 21st. Now, for those of you that don't understand, according to her purchase agreement, Karen must move out on the 21st. She's not allowed to move into the new house until the 28th. We called her about a month and a half in advance to schedule her closing and told her when the closing dates for the other two parties involved with these two transactions would be. She realizes there's about a week difference in these two dates and asks what that means. So we explain she can't move in until the 28th. She starts to get a bit hysterical about it, and my coworker, perhaps foolishly, tells her she'll talk to the seller and ask if he'll sign early or a pre-sign. This in no way changes the date she's allowed to move in. It just gives people the opportunity to sign at a time that works better for their schedule. They can allow the other party to move in after the pre-sign, which is what my coworker was trying to accomplish. He agreed to come in on the 21st to pre-sign, but did not give permission to Karen to move in early, so she still has to wait until the 28th to move in. Fast forward a month later, and we give Karen a call about a week early to remind her about the pre-signing on the 21st. She asks what a pre-signing is, despite both myself and my coworker explaining it to her. Once she found out she wouldn't be allowed to move in the same day as her move-out date, once she finds this out, she calls my boss, screaming at her that we effed up, even though we don't even see the purchase agreements until after they're signed, and their contracts. You can't necessarily just say, wait, let's change the date after they're signed. Once we explain that, and tells her it's either on her real estate agent or her to check the dates and details before it gets forwarded to us, she hangs up and calls her agent, whom I'll call Bigglesworth, and the real estate agent representing Bob, who is a sweet little 70-year-old lady that I'll call Mary, screaming and yelling that everyone else effed up except for her. It got so bad, she harassed Mary into giving her Bob's number and then proceeded to harass Bob about it, trying to bully this old man out of his home a weekish early. She then called us back saying she'd convinced Bob to let her have it early. She even threatened to cancel both transactions, although we told her she could be sued for breach of contract by both parties and backed out of that real quick. We called Bob to confirm, and Bob said, and I quote, "It'll be a cold day in hell before I let that bee have her way." 80 years old. This man is my hero. She spent the next 7 days living out of a friend's camper and boo-hooing about it. After this, I avoided her, and she got pissy at me for it, so I finally told her off. It may have been unprofessional of me, but she needed to hear it since everyone else walks on eggshells around her because she's been through a lot. Sorry, Karen. We all have been. Time to wake up and realize the world doesn't revolve around you. Well done to the gentleman with the backbone. I think he needs to pursue action against his realtor because she gave out his personal info to Karen. That's possibly against the rules which govern client/realtor relations. And our second story. Entitled man steals from customer. This story belongs to my wife, who's a department manager in a major regional grocery store in our area. It's from that time, 2020, when buying a roll of toilet paper might require a bank loan. On the day in question, the store had finally gotten some TP in to stock the shelves with, but was limiting it to one package per customer, including employees. Since several members of her team were in early to help restock before they opened for the day, they had all set aside a package each to purchase before they left for the day. About mid-morning, a young lady was lucky enough to snag the last package on the shelf, put it in her cart, and continued shopping. A few minutes later, she was shopping near wife's department in the backmost corner of the store. She turned to choose an item from several options on the shelf, and as soon as she did, an entitled man swooped in and took her cart and took off toward the front of the store. Startled, the young lady yelled out, "What are you doing? That's my cart." The entitled man did not slow down a bit, but just yelled back before turning the corner, "Nope, I need it more. I've got kids at home," and was gone. The young lady was frozen in shock and disbelief. My wife had seen this from her department, but knew they would never catch the guy. He would ditch the cart and self-check out the TP and be gone before they get there, or even get someone to pick up a page. That TP was plain gone. She calls her team together and they make a quick plan. One of them goes to find the cart with the rest of her stuff in it. They found it. Another of them retrieved a couple of the packages of TP they'd reserved for themselves. Wife approached the young lady, comforted her, and asked her to come over to wife's department. Now, because of the nature of wife's department, she has a register there and can ring customers up. Before the young lady realized what was happening, they had her rung up with 2 packages of TP, all the bags in the cart ready to go, and asked how she'd like to pay. She nearly started to cry. After she paid, wife told her, "Now take these things to your car and secure them before you continue shopping, okay?" The young lady agreed and left rapidly. Wife's team shared the remaining packages, and at no time during the shortage did any of them run out of TP. Wow, the audacity of that man. He claims to have kids at home, something he can easily lie about to try to justify his behavior, and just assumes that she didn't? Your wife is truly awesome. And our next story. Parking at my work is a nightmare. I'm an overnight security guard. I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. most nights. I'm with a company that has contracts with other companies for security, usually hotels, apartment complexes, clubs, etc. For this one particular site, I work at 90% of the time. The parking is terrible. It's a luxury hotel, and the parking garage is nowhere near as accommodating as it should be. The hotel has valet and a restaurant on the top floor. The parking garage is only 2 floors, maybe 100 spots for all employees and hotel restaurant guests. They recently made it so that roughly a quarter of the garage is reserved for employees, which is nowhere near enough. They also made it so you need a parking permit to park there. If you don't have a permit, you get towed. 1 warning allowed via a sticker on your car. The garage is also valet only for non-employees. Only other option is to pay to park in the street. Personally, I have 3 cars, not counting my SOs, that I drive on occasion. The parking permits list your car's year, make, model, color, and license plate number. My boss told me that the permits are transferable between cars, but they'll come and ask you why the permit does not match the car. My boss told me to say, "Well, boss's name told me that the permits are transferable between cars, and this is the car I drove today." Also, I asked them for permits for all of my cars to save time, and they said every person only gets 1 permit. I was also told they have to check every time the permit does not match, whether they know the car or not. Cue malicious compliance. The day I received my permit, I continue to drive a different car every day. One of my 3 cars, my SO's car, my mom's car, her boyfriend's car. Every car I was able to drive, I drove to work. After a while, management was starting to get upset about it. I gave them the same answer every time. I told them, "Well, my boss said they're transferable, and this is the car I drove here today." After about a month and a half of this, I came in one day to my office, and there it was in all its glory. A stack of permits for every single car I ever drove to work. Each with their year, make, model, color, and tag number. Work 0, OP1. And our last story. My neighbor is obsessed with the property line. I'm a woman in my early 30s living alone. My next-door neighbor is also a woman in her early 30s living alone. We live in a typical suburban neighborhood. Long story short, I noticed pretty early on that she's obsessed with her property lines as I witnessed her yell at another neighbor about it roughly a month or so after she moved in. At that time, I thought to myself, okay, this woman is nuts. But she's not going to become my problem because I never go anywhere near the property line. Hell, I don't even spend time outside in my own backyard because I still have to build myself a patio. So I figured I'll just be friendly with her and she'll see how chill and easygoing I am and we'll be cool with each other. Well, was I wrong. Come December, after our first big snowstorm, my plow truck driver plowed my driveway. She flipped out, telling me that some of the snow that was moved during the plow job had rolled over onto her property. Then she actually said, "I'm going to draw a line in the snow, and if anything goes over that line, we're going to have a problem." After that, I tried to explain to her, in a stern but polite manner, that the snow was not on her land and that I was on a work call. We both work from home. She reacted to that by marching over onto my property and screaming at me on my own front porch. She screamed bloody murder in my face in a manner I'd never seen before. She demanded that I take a walk with her to examine the snow so that she could prove some of it was on her land. I was feeling pretty threatened at this point, so I said, "I'm not walking anywhere with you." Then she screamed, "Then we're gonna have a effing problem. Do you understand me?" I said nothing because I was in a state of complete shock. I just stared at her in amazement, and then she leaned in and screamed this blood-curdling scream, "Do you effing understand me?" So I slammed the door in her face and decided to avoid her at all costs from then on. In the days that followed, she proceeded to shovel her driveway and the sidewalk in front of her house, even on days when there was no snow left to shovel, screaming at me and my house the entire time she's shoveling. She can see me through my window, as the desk I work from faces the window. Come spring, I go for walks with my friends in the neighborhood when the weather's nice. She ran at us with a weed whacker as we passed in front of her house, screaming, "You start your walks when you think I'm inside. You can't avoid me." I filed a police report after this incident. On her more calm days, when she's not doing one of those screaming episodes, she'll go outside whenever I go outside and pretend to work on a bush that's on our property line. I hired a landscaper to cut my grass because I don't feel comfortable in my own yard. She went outside on my landscaper's first day on the job and talked to him about me. Basically, I can't do anything at my house without her reacting to it or somehow finding a way to insert herself into the situation. She makes everything her business. On her best days, she's just behaving in a nosy, annoying manner, but on her worst days, she's screaming at me and making me feel threatened, as if I'm about to be physically attacked. Oh, and she also never leaves her house to go anywhere, ever. She has her groceries and anything else she needs delivered to her house. She literally never gets into her car to drive anywhere. She's always home, waiting, watching. And before I say it, no, I'm not selling my house. I was here first, and I put so much money into renovating it to make it into my dream house. I refuse to be run out of my own neighborhood. Oh, and I'm getting a privacy fence put up next month. Edit. I feel dumb that I didn't mention this earlier, but yes, I did have a few cameras installed around my house right after I moved in, before she moved in. Given that I'm a single woman living alone, the front camera has actually caught all the incidents that happened in the front yard, including the December screaming incident and weed whacker incident, and I've been saving and documenting everything in case I need to show it to the police later on. I recently bought a new camera that will specifically focus on the property line in the backyard, where the fence will go, and I'm getting sound installed as well. Unfortunately, everything that's been captured on my camera so far doesn't have sound, which I'm kicking myself over. Update. I ended up getting the tallest privacy fence the city would let me have. I got one running along the entire side of the property line. It's true what they say. Fences fix everything. It's been a year and I still haven't had to deal with this woman since the fence went up. Although now she's starting a similar war with the neighbor on the other side of her. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.